Hey, y'all need a break? Listen to these stories from r/EntitledParents. My dad doesn't want my mom to get further cancer treatment. I've already vented to my friends about this, but I still can't stop overthinking the whole situation. I'll try to explain things from the beginning without going too deep into details. My mom was diagnosed with cancer mid-last year. They seem to have, thankfully, caught it in good time, and she's had a few treatments so far, most notably being surgery in the beginning, then chemotherapy when it was found she still had cancer in her system. The chemo really hit her hard, most especially toward the end, but thankfully she finished chemotherapy around a month ago and it's like she's back to her old self again. However, she's been aware that she may have to have radiotherapy depending on the outcome of the chemotherapy. She got a call to say that they'd like her to have radiotherapy as a precaution to fully ensure the cancer is gone. Mom's obviously not dancing happily with this news, but she's an effing fighter and she'll get through this. Her loved ones will do all we can to help her too. I'm so proud of her for overcoming all of this. Then there's my dad. When he found out Mom had initially been diagnosed last year, he immediately started telling her not to get treatment for it. To shorten his general reasoning, it only kills you quicker, it doesn't really help you in the long run. I've listened to him saying things like that all my life. I had cancer treatment myself when I was a kid. I was diagnosed at 4 and my parents were told I'd need chemotherapy at 6. My dad was against it, and if it hadn't been for my mom, I likely wouldn't have gotten the treatment. Earlier tonight Mom told him she'll be starting radiotherapy in the near future and, no surprise to anyone, he lost it. Started yelling at her, telling her not to get the treatment, and, the icing on the cake, he told my mom, "Your friend had chemotherapy and radiotherapy a couple of years ago and she still died. Why would you be any different?" Mom reminded him that another friend of hers also went through the 2 treatments and is now back to living her life and is as healthy as ever. She's been a major support to my mom and I'm so thankful and grateful that Mom has had her, along with several other people. At this point, Dad muttered some bullcrap argument saying, "More fool her," referring to friend 2, then stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. I'm not really sure why I'm posting this to Reddit in all honesty. I just wanted to vent, and I guess I felt like just writing everything out without it reaching anyone other than myself wouldn't help as much. And I didn't want to just bombard my friends with all of this. I mean, I've told them, yeah, but everyone has their own struggles to deal with in life and I don't want to add to anyone's, so I guess Reddit's anonymity helped me there. I think I keep typing because I'm so uncertain about clicking that post button. I don't know, my head's even more of a effing mess right now than it usually is. Thanks for reading my not so mini rant anyway. Entitled Parents stole my Switch and held it hostage because I wasn't visiting anymore. I'm 20 male, and moved out of my parents' house at 18 because I really can't stand them. And it's for all of the kinds of reasons you can guess. They were jerks, favored my younger siblings, used me as free child care, told me, "What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine," and all that bullcrap. When I left, my dad told me not to let the door hit me on my way out and don't come back. I got the smallest and cheapest apartment I could find and have worked the same full-time job for 2 years. My parents didn't even hold out a month before calling me and begging me to come back home. Because without me someone else had to watch my siblings. I refused because now I finally had time for myself. My dad eventually called me and actually demanded I move back home and pay them rent instead because family is more important than my personal independence. I said back to him that my life is important too. And for once I'm getting to live for myself. So he basically said, "Well then see how long you can last without us," and we didn't talk for months. I don't know what he was hoping for. I managed well enough by myself. My family seemed to slowly accept that I wasn't going to come crawling back, and over time we seemed to mend things. I could tell they were having a hard time dealing with the fact things were on my terms and not theirs. They begged me to watch my youngest siblings from time to time, even though the 2 that are closest to me in age are in their mid-teens now. But my parents don't want to put babysitting on them any more than they have to. Which is hypocritical of them since they tried to put it on me as much as possible. And yes, I have called them out on that. They responded with gaslighting and more months of silence yet again. And again they were the ones to come crawling back to me for help. Not long ago I bought myself a used Nintendo Switch. Though could only afford one game for it at the moment. Which is Mario Kart. I got it bundled with the console for a good deal. My mom came by on a Saturday and asked me to watch my 2 youngest siblings for a while. She basically pushed them in the door at me and ran. And I was stuck with these 2 rowdy kids all day in my tiny apartment. My mom didn't come back until after 9 p.m. And that was because I called her and made her come get the kids. And she really didn't like that I cut her fun time short. I said that unless she wanted to pay me, I wasn't going to be watching my siblings all day anymore. And next time I won't even open the door, and I'll call the cops if she just leaves them outside. The next morning I realized I couldn't find my Switch anywhere. So I called my parents. And like I thought, One of my siblings took it. I said I was coming over to get it right away. But my mom said it could wait because my youngest sibling was gaming on it. And she didn't have the heart to take it away. I said it was taken without my permission. And I will be taking it back. I got on my bike and rode there ASAP. And when I arrived, my sibling was crying because the Switch's battery had gone dead and they didn't have the charger. I told them to give it back. But my dad took it and said I can have it back when I agree to start helping out with my siblings more. I told him if that's how he wanted to play this, I'd get police involved. And no, I was not bluffing. He dug his heels in and insisted I wouldn't do it. Until I pulled my phone out and started dialing. My mom yelled, "Wait," and hurriedly took my Switch back from my dad. He called her a traitor and demanded she return it to him instead of me. But she said it wasn't worth having police called on them. Before leaving, I told them if this ever happens again, I'd be calling the police first. And if they want a Switch for my siblings so bad, they can get their own. My dad yelled that I can't disrespect him like that. And I countered that even though I'm an adult, he's not bothered to ever show an ounce of respect to me. And I'd had enough. Then I walked out with him yelling at me to come back and face him. Right now it's back to silence from them. My mom texted me once begging me to still watch my siblings. I said that if she wanted me to babysit so bad, she could pay me. And I'd only take the money in advance. Because I'm not doing it for free anymore. Especially after they stole from me and tried to keep from returning my property. They don't own me, I'm an adult with my own place and my own life. And they can either get used to it or get lost. It's been over a week since the text convo, and none of them have as of yet talked to me again. Which is fine. They can deal with their own messes. Edit. Holy crap. I didn't expect to come back to this many messages. Thank you everyone for all the support and awards. It means a lot to me. Crazy liar dad finds out where I live and attempt to give my apartment to his random friends without my knowledge. So this is long. I have a TLDR at the bottom, LOL. To add some context, I'm female 25, my parents are so crazy to the point to where me and the majority of my family had to cut them off, for me personally my dad completely, and my mom calls on occasion. My mom also tries to overstep, such as inviting him to family events he's specifically not invited to. The reason is he tries to steer every conversation and attempts to talk about himself. People usually don't care or want to hear him argue with people, threaten their lives, and she purposefully does these things knowing they'll cause an argument, and she gets joy out of it. So needless to say, sane people don't want these issues in their lives. My dad is delusional and narcissistic to the point to where he thinks he's famous, and claims everyone runs up to him for pictures, and says he's famous and someone he knows is making a movie about him, lies about it, obviously, because no one has ever seen this and it's a running joke. People laugh at him, he thinks it's with him, not at him. He's lost all of his friends due to his poor behavior. Such as arguments, belittling, non-stop phone calls. But to the story of his lies and delusions. I have an apartment and I didn't give him my address because we aren't on speaking terms, and threatened my life because I wouldn't give him my personal info so he could take out loans in my name. Like, that's an obvious no. Also, I didn't grow up with him, so I barely know him. He has apparently told people he has an apartment, mine, that he lets his daughter, me, live in. This is what I've been told. He likes to pretend to be a big shot. So I guess he told some people who needed a place to live they could stay at his spare apartment. He got my address from a family member. I assume my mom, due to the fact that no one I know speaks to him. One day I get a call from my apartment building manager saying there are some people at the gate saying they're here to move into your unit. Is this correct? I was just as confused as she seemed, as well as the people he sent to live at my place. He somehow thinks it's his place. Mind you, it's my place, I pay the bills, and I didn't even know he knew my address. So I go out to meet these said guests as there was much confusion. These three people, three random sketchy older looking men. Side note, I would at most let a friend stay a few nights if needed, not random strange men. I ask what's going on. My building manager stayed because she wanted to know what's going on and wanted to help sort it out, and she would also know who's moving in and out because she's in charge of leasing and the building isn't that big, we all know each other. The three men proceed to tell me they're moving in their place. We're here for the keys, you're his daughter, right? He said you'd be out by the time we got here and keys would be at the front desk. We all looked and I said, do you see a front desk? I asked to see what was the address. We thought maybe wrong address. Nope, my address. So the guy said, your dad said he kicked you out cause you're freeloading and he had you leave the keys at the non-existent front desk. By this time all five of us were confused, but they had my address. I said he doesn't even have my address, so I don't know how he got it. By this time they're trying to call him to sort it out. He's not answering at the moment. So I explained to them, I don't know how you or he got this address. I haven't spoken to him in about a year. And I don't know how I'm freeloading or what he's told you, but this is my place. I don't know what's going on. Y'all need to figure it out with him, but I have no place for you. Sorry. They tried to get me to call him. I said no, and calling won't change anything, and this isn't my problem, so I can't help you. By the way, they didn't seem threatening, it was just random and weird for all. I hear one guy on the phone talking to my dad, I hear him telling him she's lying etc., ask her to show you the lease. At this point one of the guys and my building manager are all looking like this is odd, and he looks embarrassed. My manager stepped in at this time luckily. She told the men, you all must have the wrong place, she's on the lease, the only one. You will all have to leave and sort it out. I can say despite them looking sketchy initially, they were as calm as could be in their odd situation. Because in all honesty the only fault they had was believing my dad. They thought they were moving into an apartment for free. If I was in that situation I wouldn't be happy either. After apologizing and before leaving I heard one of them saying, I knew something was up, he always lying. I asked what did he tell you? One of the men said he told me he had a spot for him to move in, all furnished and paid up to the rest of the year. I kicked my daughter out cause she's freeloading but claimed he couldn't get out of the lease. I said something like, well like your friend said he is a liar, I don't know how, why, and what made him do this, I never gave him my address, he isn't on a lease, I don't even talk to him. So, I'm sorry but hope it works out. I don't know what my dad thought would happen. But like I said he's delusional, he probably assumed all he was saying was true. Or maybe he assumed there was a front desk and whoever was at the front desk would just magically let 3 random people in. And I'd have no say. It's all so crazy that I can't even attempt to understand, there is no use lol. Also I told my manager thanks, and if anyone ever comes when I'm not home please give me a call or call 911, if I have a guest coming I'll be home to greet them. TLDR, my delusional dad who I haven't spoken to in over a year somehow got my address and told 3 of his friends my apartment was his and sent them to move into his apartment. Slept over at boyfriend's and woke up to a horror story. For background, I'm 19 female, and my, now ex-boyfriend is 20 male. It's his biological mother I'll be referring to here. Boyfriend and I were together for 2 months at this point, but have been friends for several years prior. We broke up very soon after this, and this event took place about 2 weeks ago and I need it off my chest. Now I've had a few odd things come up while talking to his mother, but we have only talked a little here and there, maybe 4 or 5 times until this point. Each time wasn't comfortable but nothing I didn't think was outside of the norm for a mother teasing her son. Comments about meeting the family and staying a week in another state where said extended family lived in a room with boyfriend only a week into meeting me, or talking about how small I was and how I could fit inside her wedding dress. Stuff that was definitely odd but I rarely saw her and thought little of it. Boyfriend had warned me she was off her rocker a bit but, as I said, I didn't interact much with the lady. Although one more odd thing I will add, a week into briefly mentioning that we were together, his mother told his entire family and somehow sent photos of me to them. I don't have her on any social media and my boyfriend had not sent her any, to the point my boyfriend was getting calls from family members he hadn't spoken to in years about how him and I were doing. Now I will say, as much as we were friends for years, we lived apart and never met up unless it was public, without family around, just because it's easier to meet in between each other. Now on to the main event. After a night of relaxing and playing video games at my then boyfriend's house, we got snowed in quite early on in the night, and neither of us drive and it's a good 30-ish minutes to my house and everyone is asleep. I decided against better judgment to spend the night, as it was recommended prior to me by him and his parents if I ever needed it, and they assured me it would be no issue, and they could take me home the next morning. Now I've had a few awkward bumps in the road with his mother before this, but nothing that said run in big bold letters like this. At about 7 o'clock in the morning, earlier than the alarm we had even set, we hear loud banging on the door, almost as if someone was trying to tear the wall down. I assumed this was maybe some work getting done to the house or something of the sort and just tried to shut my eyes. A few minutes after the banging gets unbearable, the door swings open and she barges in. I hear his mother yell his name a few times as she makes her way over to the bed. I assumed at this point, she was pissed and tried my best to act as if I was sleeping. She told Google, he has one of those things that can turn off or on the lights via voice, to turn the lights all the way up and began to stand over the bed where we were sleeping. For your information, fully clothed, not even near each other. She then begins to repeatedly tell, oh my god, for a good while until she says, X is still here. She sits down on the bed as boyfriend promptly asks if she can calm down and leave. She insists she is going to stay right here and begins talking in a voice you'd only talk to a child or an animal in. She asks us if we are fully dressed and we both say yes and show her, although I would like to state, she is by no means very hard on religion in this aspect or anything, and is just asking for the sake of being weird. She talks about how she knew I would stay over and how I wanted to. For the record, I did not want to. I even had an hour-long discussion with boyfriend before going to bed about why I dislike sleeping over places, but it was against all odds. I let her know I actually have school this afternoon and I wasn't planning on staying, I have to go here pretty soon anyways. The snow had gotten bad and everyone was asleep, so I slept over. She tells me that she knows that's a lie, and that it's okay because you're a part of the family now. She then rambles about how she wants grandkids but not so soon, and how I could fit into her wedding dress better than her own daughter. Please keep in mind I have met this woman no more than 5 times now in my life, each in very short intervals. I then tell her that I need to leave in the next 2 hours to go work on schoolwork, and she tells me that there's no way I'll get home and I'll just have to stay the night again, and we can all pretend to be a big happy family. I say that I'll get my father if it's troubling for them to drive in this weather, but reaffirm that I need to go home. She says she isn't going to take me home and I can stay here as long as I like because she knows I love it here. She asks us if we want breakfast and that she can make us some. We tell her no and ask her for the 100th time during this to leave. Of course these are just the main things she said, but she mentions marriage among other things as well. It took him forever to even get her to leave because she insisted I liked her company and we were family, and she's his mother and therefore can say anything she wants. After she leaves, I luckily am able to get a ride home earlier than expected via my boyfriend's dad, just 15 minutes later, and we hurry out the door. As we are in the car, she calls my boyfriend's phone and her husband's frantically until her husband answers and asks to be passed to boyfriend. She then, on speakerphone, begs him to speak to me as she thinks I left because of her. That was definitely why I left early, but I also, as I told her, had other plans. This goes on for another minute before he hangs up on her and mutes the phone and gives it back to his dad. I later found out she did the same to all his sister's exes, even to a larger scale, which led to his sister moving out soon after. She also feels she did no wrong and wanted to continue to see me afterwards, and even cried when confronted by her husband and son on her behavior. That's the last I ever talked to the woman, and hopefully it stays that way. Edit. Added spaces between walls of text. Have gotten some comments saying it's poorly written. I do apologize, but if you let me know what I can fix, I will. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments.